Okay, so for my program, I ran into an issue, which was that I didn't want to have to use any imported libraries that weren't in the Python standard library, but I also wanted to be able to screen for some specific input. So I wanted my players to be able to enter numbers, but also spell them out, or I wanted them to have fun with like entering pi or e equals mc squared or any sort of crazy math stuff like that. But I realized pretty quickly that screening for characters like e or pi and also not allowing all of the other potential string options was going to get very cumbersome and bulky if I didn't have some sort of imported functions that were specifically designed for that. So I settled on allowing players to input typed out numbers, just common typed out numbers, or digits, but nothing else. And so the way that worked is I created a list of all of these numbers, and then I'll check if that list item is in the phrase that the user entered, and if so, I'll consider that a number. Otherwise, other types of strings will be disallowed. It's not perfect, but again, there's only so much you can do without typing out tons and tons of code. The other thing that I tried to do is get random input from users so that they don't know which word that they're giving me is going to end up in which part of the story. That way on repeat playthroughs, hopefully they can still get some fun out of it. The way that works is each story has a list of words associated with it, and each item in that list is a nested list that has the input that I'm soliciting, and then a space to hold the user input and store that. And then I use random.choice to randomize that input, but I can't apply random.choice to this existing list because I want to be able to remove an item from the list each time it gets chosen so that it doesn't randomly get chosen twice. So the way that I do that is I have a function getWordInput, which starts by creating a second list, which is basically just a list that is the same length as my word list, but each item in the list is just the number of that item associated with like the index position. So like it creates a list that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And then I take that temporary list, word indices, and I pick a random item from it. And that item just so happens to, again, be a number, which is associated with the index position that it's in. So I can then take that number and use it to, once I get the user's input, screen for bad input, I can take that input and put it in that index position of the word list down here. So say I randomly get, position 1, then when I get my user's input, it will say 1, 1 in word list is where that word goes, which means I go to 0, 1, this one, and then that's position 0 of that. So that's position 1, 1, 1. It'll get plopped in there. And then at the end of the function, each time it loops around, it removes that item from the temporary list. So that list gets shorter, and then that item can't get picked twice accidentally. I have a similar function that's the same thing, but basically getting the number input from the user. And in my story where I have numbers, I have a number list as well that does the same thing. Let's just go through the program, I guess. The rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. Just basic, greets the user, asks for their name, gives them 2 different options to pick from. I'll pick the one that takes number input. It asks for various things. All of these, like units of time and various types of words. Again, I wasn't able to screen for them without importing some special library, which I didn't want to do because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to put that onto Trinket or not. So for those, I'm just checking whether these are words or numbers. That's the only sort of screening I did. And it would have been nice if I could have said like, this is a verb or that's not a verb or whatever. But again, I'd have to get a special library to do that. For numbers though, you can see if I enter a string like ball or cat or whatever, it doesn't allow that, but it does allow things like 33. And then I have two numbers, so it'll say the same thing. I'll say 54, and it allows both of those numbers. And then yeah, it tracks how many stories I've created, asks if I want to go again. If I say yes, it'll just loop around again, but I say no, and it gives me a farewell greeting.